we're back, and Roger is working on a book. And one of the chapters in the book is on happiness, which really prompted us to want to do this interview. And he has a very interesting thought that he would like to share. Roger?
Yeah, it's interesting because this all came about when I was flying back from Europe a couple of years ago, and it's like, am I happy? Right? And so I started looking at that question, and then it came up. It's like, well, what is happiness? Right? And then it kind of floated away. And then in the process of working on this book, it came up. It presented itself again. And so then so it's just like, okay, obviously this is something that I need to explore and get into deeper. Mm-hmm. And then one day as I was writing, it's like, this just came into my head. It's like, whatever or whomever we feel brings us happiness can bring us grief, sadness, and any other number of agitated or angry states. And so then I started questioning. It's like, well, if something or someone can make you happy and make you angry, does that thing or person can it really bring you happiness in the first place? Mm-hmm. And I'd like to ask you both to kind of address that from your experience and your expertise on working with people and happiness. So, Laura?
So when you say this, I think of two things. The first thing I think about is this image of a lake, which really works for me. So you have this deep lake. At the bottom of the lake, everything is pretty much unchanging. You've got the same temperature, the fish are swimming, it's completely quiet, pretty untouchable. The top of the lake, all kinds of stuff happens. You've got the sun, you've got the dark, you've got the day, you've got the rain, you've got the wind. So if we can remember, if we can see what it feels like to be at the bottom of the lake, and we can feel that we can always connect with it, even if just a little tiny bit, even visualizing it. So the bottom of the lake is always there. The top can go crazy. And that's when, people upset us, we upset ourselves, blah, blah, blah. So there is a certain amount of sovereignty there that says, hey, that's the bottom of my lake. No matter what's going on up there, I can always go back there. So that's the first piece that comes up for me when you say that, is there is a piece we own. The bottom of the lake is ours. Sometimes we remember it better than others, but hopefully we can always at least connect with it a little bit. In that case, if you want to call that happiness or peace of mind, it's always yours, independently of what's going on the top. The other thing that comes up, because you're talking about relationships, and if somebody can make me so happy one day and so miserable the next, I think what you're asking is, was the happiness fake? It's so transient. And so what I want to say about this is vulnerability. It's very difficult to achieve intimacy without vulnerability. In order for me to be intimate with you, I have to open up to you and be so vulnerable that, yes, you could come in and crush me. But if I don't give you all that, I'm not going to be receiving this delicious intimacy that we can create. So I think that's why, if we give someone the authorization, the blessing, if we open the door to our heart and to our life, they can come in and stomp on it. They can, and they can also bring us ecstasy. So that's where vulnerability comes in. That's where intimacy comes in. And on top of all this, we always have the bottom of the lake. Yes. Does that help?
Yeah, I'm processing that. But that's really good.
I agree that the vulnerability piece is huge. That willingness to, I think it's Einstein who said, one of the biggest questions you can ask yourself is the universe friendly? And if you wake up in the morning with your feet hitting the ground with the belief that the universe isn't friendly, it's likely that that's what you're going to discover throughout your day. And if you get up in the morning and your feet hit the ground and you decide that today the universe is friendly, and in everything that I see, I'm going to look for things to corroborate my belief that the universe is friendly, it's more likely that it will be. But it takes that willingness, that vulnerability, and happiness is the constant, and the pain is something that distracts us from the constant. But the happiness or the joy or the peace, it doesn't go away. It just is. It's our ability to access it. It's like as we prepared for this talk today, the radio connection, how is our internet connection? Is it high? Is it low? It doesn't mean that Anacortes or where you all are sitting moves further away just because the internet signal gets weak. It's there. It's just that our ability to connect with it. The other, I've always kind of had an allergic reaction to being called an expert in happiness, because to me, we're all just doing our best. I may have it as my calling or my passion to wonder about how happiness works in our life more, but I don't know that I'm any better at maintaining it consistently than anyone else. We all are on that lake where riding at the top, if the wind is blowing, it gets a little more turbulent, and when you're in your still place, you can access it more with a greater sense of security about it. But I do know that by diving in and vulnerably opening my heart, even in the most challenging circumstances, like being with my grandnephew when he went through cancer, or walking this journey with my grandson with autism, the situation sucks. The circumstances are horrendous. And there is something about even that if you open with the intention to see blessings, they're huge. They're huge. And the dichotomies of life, it just seems like somehow our awareness of how important happiness and joy and the things that matter to us comes from and through those challenges. So I don't like it when life sucks, but I know that if I can really hold my belief that there is joy regardless of your circumstances to be had, that from that can really be birthed something incredibly special. So it is that without the top of the table, you can't have the bottom of the table. Without the top of the lake, you can't have the bottom of the lake. Each drop of water in that lake has its significance. We all matter. And so we all are just trying to be the best little drop of water we know how to be.
Great.
I'm sorry, that's great.
Yeah, now I'm going to go back to that metaphor of the lake, because I really like that. Because so much can happen at that surface, right? We're tossed and turned, as Rhonda said, and Laura. So give us some tools then for people who are disconnected from that lower part of the pool or that lower part of the lake. How can we seek to find, or maybe even consider it, remember that pool is even there in the midst of all this chaotic stuff that can happen on the surface? Laura, can you address that first?
Yeah. To me, it goes back to removing again.
Okay.
Removing the excess noise, the excess movement, the excess busyness, the excess thoughts. I mean, I do a lot of work with the excess, so that we can be in a place where we can begin to access the bottom of the lake. So that would be my first thing. Get rid of whatever is causing noise, whether it's visual, psychological, emotional. Incompletes are huge. If you write down your list of what have I not completed, could be a thank you note you haven't written, an apology you haven't given, the zipper on a pair of jeans you haven't sewn. Get rid of those, complete them, or agree to let them go. That's one thing. And then again, the two tools: authenticity, So who are you? Who are you at the core? What are your 5 core essences? And what in your life is not lined up with those essences? Get rid of it. What in your life is lined up with those essences? Do more of it. And finally, gratitude. Having a gratitude practice. I do a lot of work around gratitude. I've written a gratitude journal, co-created it with a gratitude group that's online. I have an online gratitude group. Gratitude is free. And I'm telling you, if everyone practiced a daily gratitude practice, the happy factor would go up instantly, because then you start looking for what's good and you start to orient. When you do it for 90 days, it becomes like automatic. You have to look for what's good. And it becomes automatic. And when you start to look for what's good, more good comes. And pretty soon life turns, everything turns, because you're more focused on the good. So authenticity, essence-based authenticity, and gratitude, and getting rid of what's in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And what about you, Rhonda? What would you say to that?
So many things come to mind, especially as Laura was talking. The whole focus on what's working, that reorienting yourself. We are so conditioned to focus on the scarcity part of our life. Yet, oh my gosh, every day, the majority of us, fortunately, have had a roof over our head, enough food to eat. Our car starts when we go out, and yet we're bombarded by we don't have enough time, we don't have enough this, we don't have enough that. So reorienting yourself to notice the things that are working. And, I just returned from spending a couple of months helping with my grandson with autism. And there were times where I just hit the wall. It was the supreme test of like, okay, Rhonda, are you going to walk your talk today? Are you going to be able to find happiness even in these challenges? And I had to take myself back to people that I admire, people who have reminded me, like Nelson Mandela. If he could spend 20 some odd years incarcerated and still stay focused, I'm sure he didn't every day. I'm sure that he thought life sucked occasionally. Another is Viktor Frankl in the German concentration camps. It's like, you look, where is that one little flower growing through the crack of the sidewalk? Or where can I notice that someone has given their little tiny chunk of bread, they've broken it in two and shared it with another? So focusing on that. And then for me, a really important part of that is self-love. And that's really what Laura is talking about, really connecting with what's authentic in you. That is the way that what we give someone else it is abundant rather than scarce. If we're helping someone from our place of fear that there's not enough, then more not enoughness grows. But self-love is the greatest gift that you can give another. And it is oftentimes the greatest challenge, especially for women who are so conditioned to give to others first before they take care of themselves. So I think the self-love piece and the focusing on what's working, being committed to readjusting, reorienting your gaze to focus on what's working, and forgive yourself when you're in the pits. Another key for me is creating that circle of friends. Like, who will you call at 4 a.m. when life sucks? Create that circle of friends that are willing to receive you when you're not your highest and best, but who always hold you accountable to be your highest and best. That's one of the things that I loved about letting go of, for me, the definition of what being a traditional counselor was when I studied to be that. It's where that model was, you're broken and I'm here to fix you. I love being a mentor coach because it's, you know, your thoughts have distracted you from knowing your own magnificence. And I can sit over here and see it. So I'm just going to hold the space for us all to remember how magnificent we are. So that to me those are the primary keys that I implement moment by moment, if not day by day, in staying on course.
So it sounds like both of you are saying that, or evaluate this statement then, stop looking for happiness and create it. Is that a fair?
Yeah, to be it, to notice it, to allow it. What you resist persists. So if you're determined to see life as horrible, you're such a good creator that you will. So to be it.
For me, I would say allow it more than create it.
Allow it. Good.
Allow it. Make room for it. Because create it puts a little bit of pressure, a little bit of responsibility. You know, it sounds good, create it, but how? You know, do I use you know, this paintbrush to create it? How the heck do I create it? So to allow it, to get rid of what's in the way, and then just sit back, take a breather, and allow it to come to you. That's easier, I find, for people often, than to say, just go create it, because you know, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I think another piece of that, or an extension of that for me, is that we are so conditioned to think that our worth depends on what we do. So creating something is a doing, when by the very nature of the word that we are human beings. So it's not about all of the things that we do, but if we can access that authenticity, that way of being in the world that allows us to see the simple things that matter. A little kid putting their face against the glass on the back of their mom's car, or, you know, whatever those crazy little things are that bring us back to knowing that from that place of being, the creating happens. But if you attempt to create, you're in a doing place, and you're then judging happiness rather than allowing it.
Great. I think it's time for a break. And when we come back, I want to loop back to something that we spoke about a few minutes ago, if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
Great.